What's going on, guys? We are Tottenham TV here, back again with another live stream, and yet again for the second day running, Harry Kane has refused to turn up to training in a bid to force through a move to Manchester City. This one, we gave the news to you yesterday that he's set to be fined from the club. Things looking to get a bit messy between the player and the club. Harry Kane is making a stance that he wants this move to go through. He feels that a gentleman's agreement has been broken, but Spurs are reportedly digging in their heels. They are absolutely adamant that they're not going to sell. That he's not for sale at all. And even so, the Evening Standard has even reported that Harry Kane is not for sale to an English club and will only sell for 150 million to a team abroad, which is astonishing. But let's read some of the incoming news stories coming out of this as of today. We got Lautaro Romero, who commented 2 hours ago saying Harry Kane is the same position again today. He's not showing up for Tottenham training as he wants to leave the club this summer. It's a very tense situation with the Spurs board. Charlie Eccleshare also reporting no Kane return to Tottenham training today. As we reported this morning, he has no plan to be back at Hotspur Way until a move is finalised. So earlier this morning, very reliable sources were reporting that Kane isn't planning on coming back to Hotspur Way until a transfer has been finalised and things are moving in the right direction in terms of the transfer, which is very peculiar, seeing as why would he return once a transfer is finalised? But that's what they was reporting. However, in a slightly more encouraging news, I wouldn't say encouraging, but slightly a different take on it, as of an hour ago, there have been reports from Dan Kilpatrick and Romano, which I'll go through now. It says Harry Kane, Romano says first, Harry Kane is planning to return to training with Tottenham later this week. The situation regarding his future is still unresolved, to be discussed with the club. Harry will be back soon. Spurs were aware of his desire to try for a new challenge and to play Champions League football. And Dan Kilpatrick also says, I'm now hearing Kane is due back at Spurs later this week. The club is aware of his situation. Kane believes this has been blown out of proportion. I want to know people's opinions, maybe in the comments, or if you tag us in a tweet, we'll read out some of your opinions. Has this been blown out of proportion? What do we think? Do we think Kane is going to try his hardest to move out of the club? Is he being disrespectful? Or do you think he's just trying to kind of make a statement at the moment that he wants out of Tottenham, and he's not going to, apparently he doesn't want this to go much further than this week. He doesn't want this situation to rumble on. He wants to make a statement that he wants out, and he wants out of Tottenham, but he's not willing to let this drag on. Sky Sports tweeted out in their reporting saying, Harry Kane is planning to return to Tottenham this weekend. He doesn't want it to go on and on. He just wants to make a protest to vent his frustration. He believes verbally he was told that he'd be allowed to leave Tottenham if the right offer came in. However, that's the essential part. If the right offer comes in, as much as Kane will protest, he can put in transfer requests, he can do whatever he wants, but Kane was told if the right offer comes in, he'll be allowed to leave. And I'm sure that's true. I'm sure if we get 150 million, we will let Kane leave. The fact is, we haven't received that fee. He has 3 years left on his contract. He's a player who looks after himself very, very well. He's in the prime of his career. So I think 150 million for a player of his quality, one of the best strikers, if not the best striker in world football right now, is a fair offer. And people might say it's extortionate, it's expensive. People might say that how can we demand such a high fee? But look, he's our talisman. He's one of our own, and I think at the moment that Spurs are well within their right. Spurs are well within their right to be demanding that amount of money for Harry Kane. So it's on Man City to either stump up the cash or move on. Because I think Man City have reportedly made it very clear they're not willing to spend the 150 million Tottenham are asking for Harry Kane. So if that is the case, then they have to wait a year, and then maybe when Kane has 2 years left on his contract, they can get a lower fee. I just feel like Harry Kane at the moment, he's making a statement. He's letting it known to the hierarchy he's not happy with the situation. He wants to move on. He wants to try a new challenge. I don't think that's new to anyone. I think that's why, again, he's been missing today, which is, again, upsetting, but it's reality in these transfers, how they play out. But having said that, I don't think if he is to stay beyond the window, if Man City don't come up with the right offer, I'm sure he'll knuckle down. I'm sure he'll start producing and continue to bang in the goals in the Spurs shirt, because he's in that essence, I think he won't want his standards to drop. I think he'll want to do his best. He'll want another golden boot. He wants that Premier League goal scoring record. He's not going to let his standards drop even for a year just because he hasn't got his move. And I think he has too much respect for Tottenham to down tools in that way. I think at the moment, where the club is at, I think he feels it's time to move on, seeing as we're in the Conference League. There's not much really to fight for next season. He knows we're not going to really be challenging for a title. Only things we're realistically in available to win are the Conference League, FA Cup and League Cup, which are nice to win, but he's a man who sets his sights a lot bigger than that, and he wants to be challenging for the top trophies. So I think he's going to try his hardest to try and force a move this summer. But I also believe if a move doesn't materialise, I think he will accept it for another year. He will knuckle down and he'll be part of the team. And I'm sure he has the respect of his teammates, even though he's trying to force a move. I don't think he's lost respect in the dressing room by any stretch of imagination. Apparently, it's come as no surprise. We can talk about this Athletic article from Charlie Eccleshare. He says, Harry Kane's rebellion, why he's doing it, Spurs' determination not to sell, and the gentleman's agreement, Levy says, never happened. And to talk about the bullet points from this Athletic article written by Charlie Eccleshare and Sam Lee, he says, Kane spoke to a senior non-English Man City player prior to Monday to inform him of his desire to join the club. Guesses in the comments to who that senior Man City player is. I'm going to go for Kevin De Bruyne, but I think that's the obvious choice. He goes on to say some Man City became aware over the weekend that Kane's intentions was not to train or play for Spurs ever again. After Monday's no-show, Kane does not plan to return to Hotspur Way until he has granted his wish to leave. Tottenham's position is they will not sell to another Premier League club under any circumstances. However, that was also the case as was the case when they moved on Luka Modric and Gareth Bale. Sources at the club insist that no gentleman's agreement has ever been made. Tottenham's frustration with Kane dates back a year ago to when the striker's post-holiday quarantining delayed his return to pre-season training and was perceived to have affected his performance on the opening day of the season. And apparently Jose Mourinho wasn't happy with Kane coming back late from holiday, forcing himself to quarantine. During the same summer last year, Man City held a strong interest in Kane until their attentions were diverted to Messi, which obviously didn't materialise last summer. Senior sources have spoken of their expectation for big signings beyond the anticipated 100 million acquisition for Jack Grealish. They remain confident that a deal can be done for Harry Kane. So it sounds like Man City are confident that even though they're going to get Jack Grealish for 100 million, they're willing to spend another big fee for a player, especially of Kane's ilk. And apparently, Pep Guardiola has even abandoned his backup list for strikers this summer, as he only wants Harry Kane. He doesn't want anyone else. However, it says senior Spurs figures are furious at the course of action Kane has taken and will fine him if he does not return. So maybe that's why you are starting to hear stories at the moment that Kane is set to return to Tottenham later this week. I want to know in the comment section below, do you think these stories about Kane returning to Spurs training, is it a bit of a PR ploy to try and get fans and a public perception back on side, or do you think it's a genuine statement to say, I've made my case, I've made my position very, very clear that I'm not happy with how things are and what's happening, but I'm not going to let this situation rumble on the whole summer, and I will get back to training, and I just wanted to make my situation known to the board. I want to know what people's opinions. Maybe send us in a tweet, send us in a super chat, I'll read out some of your opinions live on the show. This Harry Kane situation is set to rumble on for a very long time indeed, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Do we have? Can we see the phone? Yeah, so maybe let's, first of all, I want to show a tweet which Paddy Power tweeted out, which I thought was quite funny. Where is it? Paddy Power. 1 second. So you might see a familiar face. So they tweeted this out. It says, Tottenham fans after Harry Kane missed training for a second day in a row. And you might see a familiar face in the picture that Paddy Powers tweeted out. That's obviously this is the ENIC out protest, so they've kind of made a bit of a joke of it, saying it's a Kane out protest. He probably should have squared it to Sterling, the sign says. And it's Ben holding a sign saying chocolate ankles, which I find quite funny. What does that sign say up there? You never got a touch on Eriksen's cross. So there you have it, Paddy Power tweeting out pictures of the ENIC protest. I thought that was quite funny, it made me laugh anyway. But send in your tweets and we will react to any of anything that you're tagging us in. Let's see what people are saying. El Shivan urgent, we need 2 top strikers to play up front in Nuno's system ASAP, another centre-back to play with Romero, a class playmaker in midfield, get Tomiyasu deal secured ASAP, right back Fabio, do your stuff. I mean, it's a lot to do between now and the start of the season, so I don't think we're going to get it all done, but yep, we have a lot to do. Josh RG says, Kane obviously doesn't want to stay with us, so we need to grant him that. He's been a loyal player for the club, but he wants to play guaranteed Champions League football. Let him leave. We have proven time and time again he isn't the only player we have, and it won't be that difficult to cope without him. On the other side of the coin, we could do with a replacement, and I think Calvert-Lewin would be a fantastic choice. He won't come cheap, but if we get the money we ask for Kane, it's 100% doable. In terms of Calvert-Lewin, I like him. He's a good striker. He's a very good penalty box striker. He's very good at finishing. He's very strong. He's good in the air. I don't think he's got the same all-round game than Harry Kane, but then again, who does? I don't think he's as effective. He's as good look, he's nowhere near as good as Harry Kane. That's the problem. We're always going to be constantly comparing him to Harry Kane. The thing with Harry Kane, he guarantees you 20 goals. He guarantees you, like nowadays, about 10 assists, and he's always going to be involved. With Calvert-Lewin, he probably guarantees you between 15 and 20 goals. But in terms of like his all-round game and performance, he's not up to that kind of standard. I don't think his hold-up play is as good as Harry Kane's. But he has his own qualities, so it's all about... It's not maybe about... getting a replacement for Kane, but just getting someone in who can adjust to our system. What else is there? I'll get to that in a minute. Tas Miliaros says, let Kane go, be successful. The disgusting behaviour by these fans who think Kane must stay at the club where he is the only good player in a bloody Conference League, and with a defensive manager. Kane is the one who deserves one of the best players in the world. He deserves Champions League football, and I completely agree. I think he does. I don't like the fact what he's doing, but for me, from my personal view, I know my brother has a slight disagreement, but I understand his position. I understand why he's pushing for a move. And let's be honest, if he doesn't do this, I don't think there's any chance he gets his move. I think the only way it's possible for him to get his move is to put some pressure on the board and put some pressure on the hierarchy to force the move. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. Obviously, from a Spurs fan point of view, I've got Spurs' best interest at heart, and it's not in Tottenham's best interest for Kane to be doing this. I think it's in Kane's interests, and I think if I'm putting myself in Kane's head and in Kane's shoes, I think I can understand why he's doing it, and I think in that sense, there's no other way. I think he can really put pressure on Levy to accept a lower fee than he's demanding, and maybe force his hand a bit. But from a Tottenham point of view, obviously it weakens Tottenham's hand. It makes it clear to everyone that he wants to get out right now and he's not willing to wait. And it makes Tottenham's bargaining position a bit weaker, because it makes, when they get at the table sitting, Man City know that Kane is forcing his way out, and they can say, well, we're not going to bid 50 million, we're only going to bid 120, and you're going to have to accept that, otherwise you're going to have an unhappy player on your hands. So that's how I see it at the moment. So I'm unhappy he's weakening our position, but I understand it. Alex Spurs says, all down to a few simple words. Pay or he stays. #Levy will not back down in his attempt to keep our best players unless Man City come up with 150 million plus asking price, which I've already said is not going to happen. They should be a 7-day option to buy, and that's it. I would like a bit of a deadline, to be honest, on this, and I would like this to be a cut-off point. Otherwise, it's going to drag on all summer. Super chat from SC Al Shamari says, good morning. Good morning to you too. Thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Cody Mack, he has been tweeting at us. He says, for those of you who never thought Kane would take this course, understand this. There are forces at work and things that never happened already that only the people at the heart of the situation understand. It's not as if Kane went from bleeding Tottenham to this overnight. I'm not excusing what's going on. I'm not saying he should be sold or sold at discount, or that what he's doing is right. All I'm saying is that Kane isn't doing this over nothing. If he had always been this way, he never would have signed for Tottenham in the first place. And that's a good point. I think people, whenever I hear people say, "Oh, we signed this long contract," I'll get into it. Let me finish, and I'll get into that point. Cody Mack says, something has changed. You could see it at the end of last season, the hugs of Dele and Son. I don't agree with what he's doing, but I don't think his entire legacy should be compromised because he's missing a few days of training. We don't know how this will end. Let's exercise a bit of patience and see where this goes. He has earned that right. If he is sold, good luck. I hope he never scores again. He will no longer be a Tottenham player. I support Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Kane is my favourite player, so this is difficult for me. My perfect ending, he comes back to training, sacks his brother and goes on to win trophies at Tottenham. The club buy the players we need and we kick on. But if he's sold, so be it. Many people forgive him as time heals all wounds. What a sad state of affairs. And I think that's a good summation of the situation by Cody Mack. By the way, just letting everyone know, we are taking callers this morning. We are going to be taking callers in around 25, half an hour's time. The link is in the community section, so if you click the link, come and join us and come on and have your say. In terms of Cody Mack, when he says here, I've always been, if Kane had always been this way, he would never have signed for Tottenham in the first place. And I think that's a crucial point to make, because he did. Everyone says, oh, he signed a 6-year contract in 2018. He's 3 years left. He has no right to do what he's doing. And, he signed that big, long contract. He didn't have to sign it. There wasn't a gun to his head when he signed it. And it's now his obligation to honour that contract. And I understand that point of view, because you're right. No one forced him to sign the contract. However, he signed that contract at the peak of his powers when he very easily could have gone the way of Bale, of Modric, of other players, even though of Kyle Walker, of players trying to force their way out of the club, because they wanted to go on to bigger and better things. However, he loves Tottenham. He believed we were going in the right direction. He believed that Tottenham were a club on the up. I think he would have wanted to leave if he didn't love Tottenham so much, because there are better clubs out there that probably could have afforded him at the time. And he decided to commit his very long-term fee. You don't sign a 6-year contract at a club unless you're very, very happy there. And I think you got to look at it at this point. Since he signed the contract, who has kept up their end of the bargain, Tottenham or Kane? Well, Kane has been one of the best players in Europe. He's kept up his standards. He got Golden Boot and top assister last season. And yet, Tottenham as a club, where we didn't push on, we've been stagnating. We're now in the Conference League. We're now in a situation where we're in another rebuild. We haven't planned for the future. We faffed around in the summer over signing a manager. We didn't have a plan. We didn't have a direction. We're still 2 weeks away from the season, and the squad isn't by anywhere near ready for the new season. We've still not got main signings through the door. We still haven't, yet another season this summer. Even this summer, we're yet to plan effectively. We're yet to show ambition and that we're going in the right direction. So from Kane's point of view, since he signed his deal, he's done his part. He's done everything he could to make Tottenham a force again, to carry on Tottenham, keeping Tottenham competing at the top level. He's kept up his standards, yet Tottenham haven't kept up theirs. So I don't blame him for feeling like he's done his part, but he's been let down by the club. And yes, people might say he's letting down Tottenham, and there's a point, and there's a fair point there, because right now we are being let down by him because he's weakening our bargaining position. But from his point of view, he's not going to get the move unless he does this. So I completely understand his position, and I think for a player as ambitious as Kane is, I think this is expected, and I think he's hit a breaking point, unfortunately. He's hit a breaking point, and I'm not going to criticise him for signing that big long contract, because we want players to be happy and commit to us. And if we're going to start having no response, if Tottenham are going to think they have no responsibility when they sign a player to that long contract, just because Kane signed that long contract, he has responsibility, obviously, but so do Tottenham. And I think anyone saying that, anyone saying that Kane has a long contract, so therefore he has no right to do what he's doing, also has to acknowledge that Tottenham have a responsibility to Kane to hold up their end of the bargain, to keep on progressing if Kane holds up his end, which he has. So I think people are overlooking that side of the coin for me when they criticise Kane for signing that contract, because that's what we want. We want players like Kane to sign contracts. Otherwise, we're going to get in a situation now where players aren't going to sign long contracts. They're not going to commit to the club, and then they're going to leave for a lot cheaper, and they're going to leave for a bit. If they're not going to see any instant progress, they're going to leave, and that's what these fans are calling for when they're saying, "Well, we didn't have to sign the contract." Well, fine. If you don't want players to sign the contract, then you want players to leave for cheaper. Is that what you want? I mean, I'm confused by that way of thinking. Joshua Bonner, Super Chat, says, thoughts on how we play without Kane. Spurs versus Everton, FA Cup 5-4 loss, but we played some of our best football. Our players look to him too much, maybe. I hear what you're saying. I don't think we're better without Kane. I know some people claim we are better without him. I think we can cope without him. There's a difference in coping without him and being better without him. And I think over a short period of time, we've had good spells of playing good football and being able to play free-flowing football without Harry Kane in the side, because I think when you add a bit more pace up front, it can work in our favour. But obviously, and I think if we spend the money right, there's no reason why we can't spend the money effectively and replace Kane effectively, and then all of a sudden you maybe don't have that world beater in Kane, but you replace him with a few elements to the squad that we desperately need, and an effective striker, and we can improve. We could definitely improve without Harry Kane. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's a lot harder than people think of. Oh, just sell Harry Kane and we're better without him. It's not that simple. You need to make sure your recruitment is absolutely on point. Otherwise, we're going to struggle. And that's the reality. Mintu Lee says, just a wild thought. Could Bell had a whisper in Kane's ear how to protest if you don't get to move? Just came across my mind. I love them both still. I wouldn't be surprised if Bale has if he's had a word with him and stuff like that, and how he dealt with the situation, because obviously Bale was also loved at Tottenham, not quite the same situation. He wasn't Tottenham through and through, and he wasn't a player who would come through the Tottenham academy, but he was a player who was obviously a massive fan favourite. But he left to a foreign club, and that's the big difference. Apparently we're very adamant we don't want to leave him to a foreign club, and we don't want to sell him to a Premier League club, and it's at the moment only Premier League clubs can afford him. Let's look at some more tweets. Let's look at Dylan Sutherley. Simi got 20 goals in Serie A last year for 3 million, according to Damasio. Go get this done ASAP, even if he's a backup. Agree. If he's a backup, maybe, but I'm not convinced. He had a great season with Crotone. Not saying that. Fair play to him, but I'm not convinced he is the one. He's 29 years of age. He's only kind of just broken out a bit. I'm not convinced he's the one to come in and make an instant impact. This could easily be a player who's a one-season wonder. So I wouldn't say that he's the one I want. I'd rather get other better players with lesser risk. John Rapson says, we are Tottenham Hotspur FC, not Harry Kane FC. If he wants to go, sell him. With the money, we can build a team. Come on, you Spurs. And then it's a picture of Graham Roman says, the crest on the front of the shirt will always be bigger than any name on the back. And I think that's very important to remember. And I think it's absolutely true. No one is bigger than the club, even Harry Kane. However good he is, and as much as we love him, he's not bigger than the club. So if we do sell him, I'm sure we'll move on and we can grow. Andy Otam, Kane has been loyal for a very long time, and the fans. Please tell me a time when he'd leave and the fans would be happy. And that's also how I'm seeing it. Obviously, whenever Kane leaves, it's always going to be heartbreaking. It's going to be difficult, and I know it's a bit messy at the moment, and people aren't happy with how he's going about it, but unfortunately, in this day and age, and when you're dealing with someone like Daniel Levy, you have to, Daniel Levy is ruthless, so Kane has got to be ruthless in his pursuit. And people say I'm defending him and stuff. I don't like his actions, but I can understand them. There's a difference between understanding and supporting. I don't support them, but I completely understand them, and that I'm. Obviously, I don't want him to weaken Tottenham's bargaining negotiations. I don't want that. But if that's what he has to do for himself, then that's what he has to do, and that's what he feels he has to do. And I understand it personally. KJ 2001. If Kane stays, do you still think he'll put in 100% in for this season? I also think we should rely more on the academy players this season for some positions we need. Chelsea did it, and look at the talent, what came of it. As much as I love our academy products, I don't think Scarlet or Parrot are anywhere near ready just yet to be playing Premier League football week in, week out. I do think we should be losing the likes of Ollie Skip a lot more. I do think maybe there are other players we could possibly use a bit more. But from a striker perspective, and especially when you get to Premier League level, you need players who are... You need players who are ready to step up, and you can't have a 17-year-old kid playing up front in his own and expect it to work. So I don't think we should be using the academy product up front just yet. But there are players like Skip who are ready. Super chat from Tom Crook says, sell Kane for Laporte plus cash and buy Vlahovic and Ings. I think Vlahovic and Ings could be a decent choice. I would think that there are definitely worse striker duos we could use, and then if you get Laporte, you have Laporte or Romero at the back. There are worse squads, and as much as it's not going to be great in terms of losing Kane, you've got to make the best of a bad situation. I think that could be somewhere in the middle. I think the one, according to Sky Italy, Tottenham will potentially look at Lautaro Martinez as a potential replacement for Kane should the Kane situation go the way of him leaving. And for me, that would be a very good deal. He would be one where I'm thinking we obviously lose quality in Kane, but at least we don't losing as much quality as you would think. And Lautaro Martinez is a player who's obviously just won Serie A. He's a fantastic player. We have Argentinians here at Spurs in Lo Celso, Romero coming in, so we'll have some friends here. and he wants to play in the Premier League, so that could be a great move if possible to get him through the door. We're not going to get him without Harry Kane, but he would be my number one choice. I think Lautaro Martinez if Spurs were to sell Harry Kane. THFC George says, in my opinion, if we get in 100 million plus Ake or Laporte, then that would be an amazing deal for the club. Then get Martinez or someone like Vlahovic in, and then let the beast Paratici rest on some players for the future. Kane deserves his wish to leave. I don't think Ake would be that great. I think he obviously signed for 45 million last summer for Man City. He hasn't had a great season at all, to be honest. But I think that Laporte would be a great deal, but Ake, I think you want Ake and Laporte. I don't think 100 million plus Ake is a good deal. I don't think Ake is sufficient enough quality to really improve us and to demand a first team space. So not for me. Ryan at THFC says, the best night of my life without Harry Kane. We're Tottenham Hotspur, not Harry Kane FC. And I agree with that. Kane didn't play that night, and it obviously had one of the best nights of our life. So we know that we can perform without Harry Kane. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised people saying that, and that is true. But it's going to be very difficult to replace him. That's the only downfall. It's going to be extremely difficult to replace him. Arsenal and another London club have proposed a player plus cash deal for Leicester midfielder Maddison, says Football London. Can you see it being THFC? I don't think Maddison is coming to Tottenham. I don't think that's a deal we're looking at the moment, personally. Super chat from Kyle Dean. Thank you, Kyle, for the super chat. Much appreciated. Thank you for your generous support. Bradley Wright. At We Are Tottenham TV, afternoon lads, it's tough to accept in the moment, but Harry Kane is worth more to Spurs than selling him. Come October, we'll be singing his name and everything will be rosy again. Let's concentrate on City away now, along with new signings. I think we're playing City at home, by the way. I agree. I think people have very short memories, and if Kane is at Tottenham, even if he's pushed for a move, I think all will be forgiven once he bangs in a few goals. And I'm sure he will knuckle down and really fully concentrate on the season if he does stay, in my opinion. I don't think he's one to let a season just pass him by because he's upset. I think he was willing to push for a move and willing to use the transfer window to try and get his move, but I don't think he's willing to let a season pass him by. I don't think he knows he's too smart for that. Super chat from Wild Metal says, from this start we cheered, now he turns his back. I don't think he turns his back. I think he's felt that he needs to leave Tottenham. I don't think he's turned his back on Tottenham. I think he's just... Oh, sorry, I can't see it. Hi, guys. Well, sorry about that. Apologies that we lost connection briefly, but we are now back up and running. Hope you are all still with us. I hope you're doing well. I was just reading out some tweets, and I think in terms of Harry Kane, everyone has a lot to say. Obviously, by the way, link is in the description for the rendezvous link if you want to come on and give your opinions on everything that's happened today. There's a lot of tweets I've been reading out, but let's get on to some more positive news for the time being, and let's look at what Damasio has had to say on the prospective Romero deal. And the latest on the Romero deal as of today, according to Damasio, is Tottenham have made an offer for 55 million euros for Christian Romero. Atalanta are looking to secure a replacement before accepting the offer. And this follows on Fabrizio Romano yesterday. He said on the deal for Christian Romero is one step away from Tottenham. Final official bid around 50 million on the table. Atalanta are expected to accept soon. No Barcelona. They have never been in the race. Atalanta closing in on Merih Demiral as a replacement on loan with an option to buy. So it seems like this one is moving forward. Spurs have stumped up the cash. According to DiMarzio, it's 50 million plus euros plus 5 million in bonuses. So that is the deal at the moment when it comes to Christian Romero. And I, for one, I would definitely welcome this. If we get him through the door, that's a step in the right direction to building in for new season. It's still not enough. We still need a lot of more action in the window, and we need a lot more moving parts. But at the moment, that is the current state of play. This deal seems to be moving ever so slowly, but slowly in the right direction as opposed to the wrong direction. So it looks like this one is about to happen. DiMarzio went on to say, he released an article an hour ago, he went on to say Atlanta must choose a replacement for Romero to free him up. So I think that's just what's holding up the Romero deal at the moment, just the replacement. Looks like Demiral is heading to Atalanta from Juventus, and once that gets sealed, I think Romero is going to be a Tottenham Hotspur player. So I think it's time to get excited. Hearing a lot of very, very positive things about Romero. Everyone I've spoken to in the Italian sphere says he's the one who has really made a massive difference at Atalanta at the back, and he's an exceptional defender, and he's made a massive difference. So I, for one, am very, very excited about his potential transfer. And again, it looks like this one is moving ever closer, ever so slightly. And I want to know in the comment section, do we believe 55 million is a good deal? Is it too expensive? Are we happy that Tottenham are finally spending that extra few million that is going to take to get him over the line? I, for one, am fairly happy. So let's see how this one plays out. I think Romero is going to be a great signing for Tottenham, and I think at that price as well, you're not going to get that kind of talent willing to join Tottenham for a cheap fee. You're going to have to overspend a bit when you're in Tottenham's position. That's just the reality, unfortunately. When you have a player like Romero who's willing to join Tottenham, most players in Romero's position will probably turn up their noses at joining a club like Tottenham because no Champions League football, stagnating. So when you got a player like Romero who is actually willing to join us, which is half the battle, I think if the club demand, if you're threatening to miss out on him by a few million, that would be a massive error, because otherwise you're guaranteed to get a less quality player because other players of his quality aren't willing to come. So that's my position on Romero. I'm very excited about his prospective transfer, and let's hope we can get this one through the door. I want to know people's opinions in the comment section below. Moving on to the next topic. This one is about Harry Winks, and this is from Fabrizio Romano. And he claims Harry Winks is happy at Tottenham Hotspur currently. We're still yet to see in the next few days if anything will happen transfer-wise, but apparently he's happy and willing to stay and fight for his place. So at the moment, in terms of Harry Winks, it doesn't seem like there's much movement in the transfer market for him. I think Tottenham are going to demand too much money for him anyway, for him to realistically find a move. And I think given that he's homegrown, he's at a decent age, 25 years of age, although he had a terrible season last season, maybe Nuno sees something in him that he believes he could be part of the first team next season. And there's a lot more talk of other players, for example Sissoko, going out the door, and who has less years on his contract and is at a different age. So I think we have other priorities right now rather than Harry Winks leaving. So I think at the moment it looks like Harry Winks is set to stay. Doesn't look like he's going anywhere anytime soon, and unless we get a big offer or we use him as a make weight in the transfer window later in the window, it looks like he is set to stay, Harry Winks. And the fact that he's not even pushing for a move, it seems, that's going to obviously play into the fact that it's unlikely that he's going to leave. So I want to know your opinions on the Harry Winks situation. Do you think he should be part of the first team next season? Do you think we should get rid of him for a cheap fee? Or do you think Nuno should give him another chance next season in the first team and try and get the best out of him? If we get a good fee, I wouldn't mind him leaving. But I've always been one who thinks that he has more to offer than people think. And if we can get him playing in the right system and playing to his strengths, he could be an effective player. But we haven't been doing that over the past year, and it's all about trying to get the best out of him. And I guess we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out. Scorpion fan for life with the super chat says, difficult to convince Laporte to join us. It's unlikely. Stones is good, but Laporte isn't a squad player or unwanted by City. Squad depth is important, and I agree with that. I agree that Laporte is unlikely to want to join us because even though Laporte is, Aymeric Laporte maybe wasn't used as much as he would have liked last season at Man City, I fully believe that, first of all, one injury to John Stones and Diaz, he's right back in the team, and it's a very good possibility he gets in the team and never loses his place given his quality. He only lost his place because of an injury, and then John Stones came in and performed so well that he wasn't able to get back in the team. But I think there's always a good chance Laporte can become a first teamer again, and I think he'd rather play that game than go for a Tottenham where it's a bit more of a risk. He's playing at a lower level and maybe he can't match his ambitions enough. So I think it's going to be, and also wages wise, so I think it's going to be very difficult, a tough sell to get him through the door. And let's talk just one quickly before we start getting callers on. Let's look at the last story, and this is from Fabrizio Romero again. And he's given a here we go on Joe Hart going to Celtic. Joe Hart is set to sign for Celtic for a price of £1 million. So that one is just about in the pipeline, according to Fabrizio Romero. He reported on this yesterday, and he's claiming that Tottenham have agreed a deal with Celtic for Fabrizio Romero for £1 million. For Joe Hart for £1 million, and he is set to leave for £15,000 a week on a permanent deal. Medical and official announcement will be by the end of the week. And so it's confirmed, and as advanced, it was confirmed a week ago. Celtic are also working on other options, but it looks like they want him through the door before Thursday for their Europa League game. So good luck to Joe Hart. Looks like this one is pretty much guaranteed, and I think that's a good move for Tottenham, getting £1 million through the door for a keeper we were never going to use. I think that's a good deal. Breaking news just from Sky Italy. Let's get this up on the tweets. What are they saying? 1 second. Just a bit of an update on the Romano deal. They say Romero deal. Christian Romero is getting closer and closer to wearing the Tottenham shirt after the slight slowdown the weekend. The negotiation has undergone a new acceleration. By today, the deal could all be completed. Spurs could complete it today, according to Sky Italy, the Christian Romero deal. So it is time to get excited with this potential arrival. Maybe Spurs need some good PR after the whole Harry Kane situation, how that's being played out currently. But at least that's some good news. Christian Romero, according to Sky Italy, could even be a deal that could go through as early as today. So that is something to get excited about. But let's start getting some callers on. Continue to send in your tweets if you want us to react to any of your tweets and any of your opinions. And don't forget to tag us in any breaking news or stuff so we make sure we see it and we can react to it live on the channel. Let's start getting some people on. And we'll start off with Alex Samuels, who obviously he cut off unfortunately yesterday mid giving his opinions. Hopefully he won't cut off today. Let's see what he has to say. Let's get him on. Hey Alex, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, your connection seems a lot better today, thankfully. Yeah, I'm happy about that. It's good to see you. Look, Harry Kane, it's 2 days now, 2 days in a row he hasn't turned up for training. There are rumours that later on this week he will return. As according to Sky Sports, he doesn't want this situation to rumble on, but he just wanted to make a bit of a protest to the board to tell them that he does want the transfer and he's determined to get it, but he doesn't want the situation to rumble on in that sense. So what is your take on first of all him missing a second day, and your take on the fact that he's planning to return to training later this week? Is that maybe, do you think, him leaking that out at this point to maybe get some of the fans back on side, or maybe get some of the bad PR off his back, or do you think maybe it's just a situation where he genuinely doesn't want it to rumble on for this long?
Well, if that is the case, and he has, because it came out this earlier this morning that he is now planning to come back. If that is the case, that now he's trying to get the fans back on side, as it were, I mean, the advice he's receiving is poor then, because in a way, he's missed a few days training. It seems as though he's just gonna, it was a little, if you call missing a few days training a small little, I don't know, protest, as it were. I think the damage of the fans has been done. But as you said, once he maybe starts kicking the ball and puts goals in the back of net, if that does happen, maybe it would be water under the bridge. But the advice he's receiving just seemed very strange, because I don't know. It was coming out also yesterday that he didn't intend to return to Hotspur Way whatsoever, apart from to complete a transfer. So it all seems very weird, very a lot going on behind the scenes, which we obviously don't know about. I think that's very, very clear. We're only receiving maybe 10% of what's really happening, as with all transfers, there is with that. And I think the way this has all happened, if it was me, I would have advised him, put out a statement. Don't miss training. Keep going to Tottenham. Just put out like Pereira did for the West Brom player. I think it was yesterday. He put out a statement with his intentions with West Brom, and it had a far greater effect. You say, look, it is essentially blame it on the ownership. Say, this club has not matched my ambitions. We haven't done what I've wanted. I signed that contract in good faith that we were going in a good direction. That hasn't happened, and that way takes all the blame off himself. The fans aren't going to get on his back, and rather get on the owner's back, which for him would have been a far greater. Or it would have achieved far much more, and then you wouldn't have. I mean, you would have annoyed the owners, but they couldn't. The owners then couldn't utilize the fans' anger back at him. So, in my opinion, that's what he should have done. And to be honest, now it's such a messy situation. I don't know what's going to happen. He's obviously going to try and talk to the club when he comes back in at the weekend, and I think we all know what Daniel Levy's going to do. He's going to put his foot down, you'd think, and say, get on with it, really.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. I think maybe the advice he's getting is not great from a PR standpoint. But in terms of who we're dealing with, he knows he's dealing with a very tough and stubborn negotiator in Daniel Levy. Do you think it's necessary, this him kind of protesting a bit to force Levy's hand, or do you think that it's having a negative effect on his chances of moving?
If you believe what Tottenham are putting out, then it will have a negative effect, because we've seen that they've said any chance that there was of him going, any slim chances, has evaporated because of this, because he's essentially embarrassed the club on the international stage. Our talisman, he's training ground. He's got all his photos everywhere. He's not turning up for training. So, but that's if you obviously believe the Spurs line, of course. In reality, we know what Daniel Levy's like. He is a businessman at the end of the day. That is, and never more so than right now, having handed over the footballing power to Paratici, so we believe. So there is a price. And if anything, Kane's anger is directed towards Man City, in my opinion, because if they're offering, and it's City's problem as well, because they've market with Grealish. You look at Chelsea now; they're also setting the market with the Lukaku bid that's gone in, and they're willing to pay up to, I think it was 120 million euros for him. If that's Lukaku's price and 100 million for Grealish, then what's the most assists in the Premier League, highest goal scorer in the Premier League last season, England captain? What's he worth? And in my opinion, he's worth something like probably 180 to 200 million, really. But obviously, reality is it'll probably be more 150, 160. So in terms of what his value is, not what they're actually going to get that. But so I do feel for Spurs because we shouldn't be underselling him. That shouldn't happen. So I do have sympathy with also Tottenham's position. It's just turning. It just seems a move looks so unlikely now because Man City aren't going to pay that 150 million. We're led to believe. I believe they can afford it, but it seems they aren't going to. So a move looks so unlikely. I don't see really how this really helps anything.
And Tottenham are their line at the moment is they're not going to sell to a Premier League club under any circumstances, and it will only sell if a foreign club comes in for 150 million. And if that is the case, then there's no chance he's moving this summer. If that's true, if that's what they believe. But if that is Tottenham's stance, right, then from Kane's point of view, even if City do stump up the cash, maybe Levy still won't budge. So maybe that's why he's playing up a bit, because he's worried that even if Man City do stump up the 150 million, he still won't sell. If Tottenham's public stance is to be believed, which is they're not going to sell to a Premier League club under any circumstances.
I think that the thing is we need to be considerate of our position at the moment as Tottenham and where we are as a club, our European football, the squad we've got, and the truth is we aren't really competitors with Man City at the moment. It's the honest truth. Man City, we're not going to be winning the league in the next couple of years unless by some miracle. So I think we need to be considerate of that. And in general, in other leagues around the world, if players do go from clubs who aren't as competitive with the top clubs in the league, that happens. It's a thing that happens, and and we know that it can happen before. Look at Berbatov. And I know Modric was a different situation because obviously that was a direct rival he wanted to go to. So we know it can happen in the past because it has happened, and they're not. If Chelsea fans and perhaps Man United fans should be the most worried, because if we do sell, that's the league essentially up for the next couple of years, to be honest. So that's the thing. So I don't know if I'd be as concerned with selling to a direct rival at the moment with our current situation. I'm not sure personally I'd be as concerned. But maybe, with Tottenham, it's all about optics, PR. That's how football clubs are run nowadays. So perhaps they would be.
But do you think if it is, I'm just saying, if it is true that Levy has said that we're not going to sell to a Premier League club under any circumstances, does that make Kane's position more or less understandable in what he's doing?
I'd say probably more understandable, only because then, if Levy's completely ruling it out, and that's his stance, then what is Kane supposed to do? I suppose. Look, I think you said something really good earlier, which was the understanding about why Kane's doing this and in his actions. And I do think there is definitely an element of understanding. If Levy said, we're not selling you to a domestic rival as such, only to a foreign club, Kane's not stupid. He knows that there isn't a club around the world which at the moment can really afford him. So I actually need to hit this at two.
It's all right. Oh.
There isn't a club around the world at the moment which can afford him. So I don't really know what Kane's supposed to do, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one how this one rumbles on. Obviously, as we spoke about, he is set to return to training later this week. How do you think his return? Apparently, his Spurs teammates were not totally surprised by his absence from training over the past 2 days. But if he does return, do you reckon he might have lost any sort of respect in the dressing room, or do you think they all completely understand what he's trying to do and understand his position? Like, if you're a teammate of Harry Kane right now, are you thinking, he thinks we're all rubbish and you lose respect for him, or do you think maybe there's a bit of understanding of what his position is?
Football players are professional at the end of the day, and they know what they know what Kane's ambition is. It's very clear he's a very ambitious player, and from what we know, this wasn't a surprise, and especially in the England camp. This was Kane made it very well known to other players in the camp that he was thinking of doing this apparently, and so I'm sure the Spurs players wouldn't have really been that surprised. I feel the most sorry for Nuno because he's the one who's gonna have to deal with this, and so you know, I think in the short term it might cause some issues when he comes back in, especially some of the new players. Christian Romero coming in, he's going, what is this mess I'm walking into? Some Michael, I think that could be a bit problematic. But I think some of the old guard, some of the Spurs players, you think like Eric, even Winks here, they know when a big move like this, when players want to push for a big move. As Kane said in the documentary, you can't blame any player for wanting to try something new. So that's really, yeah. I think they'll be understanding of the situation while acknowledging how.
Oh, okay. I think your sound is cutting off a bit there, Alex. It was hard to hear you. I want to get your opinion lastly. If the signal, someone says you need to install install a router in your bathroom. Someone said.
No, I'm back in here now. Sorry,
it's all right. I want to get your opinion when people say, he has signed that long contract, 6-year contract 3 years ago. No one forced him to sign it, and he should honour that contract. And he shouldn't obviously be doing what he's doing in terms of wanting to leave. If you sign the contract, that's the end of the matter. You shouldn't think of anything else. When someone says that, do you think that that's the right position in terms of he signed that long contract, so he has to honour it, or do you think that from Kane's point of view, he's kind of held up his end of the bargain since signing that contract? Like, he's kept up his standards, and yet the club has kind of fallen by the wayside in that sense. And what more could Kane have done in those 3 years to kind of hold up his end of the bargain since signing that long-term contract? Because surely he doesn't sign a 6-year contract, right, if he doesn't love the club and want to be here for a long time and sees the club progressing. But all of a sudden he's getting people saying, almost criticising him for signing that long contract in a way, saying he should never have signed it if he wants to leave and that kind of stuff. But do people not want players to commit to us? We want people to sign long contracts, but also do you think there's, based on what I'm asking, is there a responsibility of the club just like there is to the player once they sign a contract?
I think it's a very good question, and I think that when Kane signed that contract, it was a very different time for the club. We were, obviously very much on the up, very much looking towards the future under Pochettino, and of course we know what happened since then. It's obviously reached Champions League final, everything hill from there. So at the time of him signing the contract, I think there is a sort of expectation between club and player of what the aims are. There's a conversation that takes place. Where do we want to be in the next 5 years? What are your aims and aspirations as a player? If that matches up, you sign the contract. Contracts nowadays, when a club announces a new deal for a player, they say, "Oh, here till 2026, here till 2025, whatever." We know that's not the case. That's not really it's actually quite rare nowadays for especially at the top level. I'm saying, not necessarily down the lower leagues, but players get bought out of their contracts. But because of moves for other clubs, whether it's because they've underperformed or overperformed, or a good bid comes in, it happens. So I think Tottenham, to a certain extent, didn't give him his end of the bargain. We didn't reinforce at times. What year was it he signed the contract? Was it 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
How many players did we sign that summer?
Zero.
So that summer we definitely didn't keep up our end of the bargain. However, I am also sympathetic to another view, which is that we have given him opportunities to give him what he wants. He hasn't, let's be honest, he hasn't performed when we've needed him to in the big game, in the finals, especially. Now, you can say what you want about him. It's obviously, it's not a one-person game, is it? It's not individuals. If one player can have a bad day, and it can affect the team, but other players can do well around him. And maybe he didn't have that quality. But in 4 finals, I mean, I think he had it's 1 shot per final he's now averaged, is very, very, for club and country, is very, very poor. And I think that can only be really put on Kane to a certain extent. So I do think I am sympathetic to that view. I'm not 100% convinced by it, but I do understand also what you're saying about, there needs to be an understanding between what the club and player want. And if that's not being kept up, then something does need to change, because clearly that relationship isn't going to work anymore.
All right, Alex, good to hear from you as well. Actually, there's a bit of a development on the story. I don't know how, well, it's from the Daily Mail, so it's not the most reliable of sources, but they're claiming Harry Kane is now isolating after travelling home from holiday in the Caribbean. The Tottenham striker can only return to training with a negative COVID test at the end of the week, and that follows on what Dan Kilpatrick was saying earlier, which was Harry Kane believes the whole situation has been blown out of proportion. So look. Well, obviously, we'll have to see how this one develops, but I wonder if, I can't see how this is all down to a COVID issue if Tottenham are willing to fine him, unless they're fining him for returning late or something, in terms of he extended his holiday or something like that.
You would have thought the Spurs sources, like, the Alistair Gold, Dan Kilpatrick, they would have, they have links into the club and get spoken to by the club. You would have thought this would have been pretty resolved very quickly, I'm not sure. I'm not really too. I mean, the guy who reported it, I think Sammy Mockball, is quite actually reliable.
Maybe it's a situation where both things are true. He can only return later this week, but he put himself in a situation where he can only, on purpose, where he can only return later this week, if you know what I mean.
Which is actually what happened. If you remember last summer, because Spurs were very frustrated last summer because he went on holiday, the isolation rules changed, and then he missed, I think it was like quite a bit of preseason training because of it. So, I mean, maybe it could be, the truth could be somewhere in the middle. We don't really know. I'm sure. It's just.
I think it is.
It's just very odd.
Yep. And then, okay, nice one, Alex. Good to see you as always, mate.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you. No, thanks for coming on, mate. Good to speak to you. And we'll speak to you in a bit.
And you. Bye-bye.
All right. What's going on? I'm getting texts here. What am I getting texts about? 1 sec. There is a bit of development on the Romero story. Let me try and get that up as well. From Lyle Thomas from Sky Sports. He has just tweeted out. Tottenham are close to agreeing a deal with Atalanta for Cristian Romero. Offer increased to meet the valuation. Atalanta want replacement over the line first. Full story coming. And here's the full story. Let's go through what he said on Sky Sports News. Just going to get it up now. Okay, just trying to. The story is loading. One second. All right, so he says Tottenham close it. Cristian Romero is keen to join Spurs and is ready to fly to London for the next stage of the move once the deal is fully agreed. Atalanta are working on deals for Sven Botman and Mary Demirel, according to Sky Italy. Spurs have increased their offer to 42.7 million plus bonuses for the Argentinian centre-back. This meets Atalanta's valuation of the player, and the hope is that this offer will be accepted once Atalanta secure a replacement. Romero is keen to join Spurs and is ready. God's sake. Romero is keen to join Spurs and is ready to fly to London for the next stage of the move once the deal is fully agreed, with Atalanta going for Sven Botman and Mary Demirel, which is two good signings for them. Talks of Lille for Botman are ongoing over a permanent transfer, but an agreement is for a foregone conclusion, so they're also working on a loan for Demirel with an obligation to buy. Sky Sports News reported last week that Botman is Atalanta's top target and initial discussion between the clubs had already taken place. news. Lille are looking for a similar offer they received from Gabriel from Arsenal to consider the sale. Both targets are left-footed, indicating Atalanta are looking to reshape their centre-back pairing with the right foot if the right-footed Romero leaves. So that is more development on Romero. It seems as though this deal is getting ever so close, and we're just awaiting Atalanta to get their deals over the line to see if anything happens there. And once Atalanta get Botman or Demiral, which is two very good signings, to be fair, if they get both of them in for Romero, if that happens, then it looks like Romero will be signed off on. So those are the current developments going on in the Romero deal with Atalanta, and I'm sure as time passes we'll get even more information. Any breaking news I'm going to give you, but yeah, that's the latest on the Romero deal according to Sky Sports News, so that's positive. Let's get another caller on. Is there anyone? Let's get Bob Spur. Let's get Bob Spur TV.
Big up, mate.
How you doing, Bob? You all right? Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, you too, buddy. You too.
Yeah, I'm all right. Thanks. Obviously, it's another day. Another day. Kane hasn't turned up for training 2 days in a row now. However, he has been reported that he is set to return to training at the end of the week, which I guess is a bit more positive. He doesn't want it all to rumble on. Daily Mail are reporting that he is isolating due to coming back from the Caribbean, and he can only return to training with a negative COVID test at the end of the week. What's your take on the current state of play? Is there any change from yesterday in your thinking?
We just don't know, do we? I mean, there's all so many different stories. I mean, while waiting for you, there's two different stories have broken out with regards to Kane. Well, what bothers me, what surprises me is how people can't differentiate or separate two big issues. The reason why Kane has been put in this position is because of Levy and ENIC's lack of investment, lack of ambition, lack of bringing in the right players, giving us more of a chance of going for the bigger trophies and at least challenging. We've stopped challenging over the last few years. So the reason why Kane's disgruntled and even more determined to leave is because, you know, we haven't invested as we should have. But what Kane's done is totally unacceptable in my eyes. It's totally unprofessional, unacceptable. His legacy hasn't been destroyed. It's certainly been tainted. Because one thing, Sim, we could always rely back on is say, at least he'll always give us 100%. If he stays, like I think he will do, if he has a bad game, which he will do, there will be fans out there who will say, you know what, he doesn't give a shit about Tottenham Hotspur Football Club anyway. Look, remember when he didn't turn up for training at the beginning of the season? He's destroyed that legacy. Not destroyed it, he's certainly tainted it. And that's the biggest thing. And like I say, what worries me is how people can't differentiate between, Kane. Kane's, in my eyes, a bit of a twat for not turning up for 2 days because he's not gaining anything from it. And if he's going to turn up at the end of the week and he's got COVID, then there's no reason to put out. There's no reason why they couldn't put out a statement. Harry Kane will be staying at home due to COVID or whatever. That's fine, fair enough. But he could have prevented all this circus by turning up and then still getting his move. And we would have happily. We know that he needs to move on, and then the ENIC Levy out will intensify because they haven't. But it just this is all unnecessary, Sim, as far as I'm concerned. And his actions are wrong. As a Spurs player, he's absolutely fantastic and he's a legend. But his sole action of not turning up for training 2 days in a row, just doesn't sit right with me. And like I say, the surprise is that the Levy and ENIC blame is nowhere to be seen, because if it wasn't for their lack of investment and everything else, Kane wouldn't be put in this position. But I'm totally against his actions.
When you talk about Kane's actions, according to the Athletic, it's Tottenham's current line of how they see the situation is Kane is not for sale to any Premier League club under any circumstances, and they would only consider selling Harry Kane for 150 million if a foreign club comes in for him. That's according to Charlie Eccleshare of The Athletic. That's what he says Tottenham's stance is, and he says that this is the same stance they took when they were selling Gareth Bale and selling Luka Modric. Now, if that is Tottenham's stance, Bob, if Tottenham's stance is they will not sell to a Premier League club under any circumstances, what is Kane's options if he's going to try and get his move to a Premier League club like Man City? Because I can understand what you're saying in terms of Kane is wrong to do what he's doing, because if Man City bid 150 million, Spurs will sell, so the onus is on Man City. However, if the onus is not on Man City, because we're not going to sell to a Premier League club under any circumstances, is it not more understandable that he's doing this because he's trying to make sure that if Man City do stump up the cash, Spurs will accept the offer?
No. Why should we? With all due respect, it's not Kane who determines how Tottenham Hotspur Football Club works. Tottenham Hotspur Football Club will determine where Kane goes, because then he's still a contracted employee for the club. I just think, mate.
Hence why he's putting pressure on them. Hence why he's putting pressure, because he wants to have a say.
Yeah, but turn up for training. It's 4-mile drive for him. I don't know how far he lives, but literally turn up for training and have a man-to-man conversation. Make it clear to Daniel Levy. This is the fact. We don't know if he has. We don't know if he hasn't. But like I say, this circus, which will now continue, although it says it's not going to turn up till the end of the week. This circus is going to continue for the rest of the week, and there's going to be different contradicting stories that's going to be coming out. The 150 million, of course, yeah, that would be great. But mate, we're hearing about him staying home because of COVID, or he's coming in a couple of days. He's definitely leaving. He's not going to come back at all till he moves. There's so many contradicting stories, and all this could have been prevented by him driving in to Tottenham Hotspur, and at least we as fans probably deserve that. We as fans need to know, because there's been nothing but a guessing game since the end of last season. With the manager, with the investment, with us getting excited over director of football. For F fuck's sake, mate, we're all getting excited over a director of football for a Tottenham Hotspur, mate. Come on, managers, players. This is what we need to get. This is our priority, not someone who's, with all due respect, Kane's not going to be sitting at home saying, oh, you know what, I can see a change. We've got a number 2 goalkeeper coming and a 20-year-old out to Google. It's not happening. And this Romero deal, still, it's close. It's close. I've been hearing it's close for 2 weeks. Have patience. Harry, I've lost my patience over the last two months. Harry Kane's probably lost his patience spanning over 8 years. So I understand why he's in this position. But I still stand by that he should have turned up for training. That's the little thing that I'm finding it hard why people can't separate.
Bob, can I ask you something? Is there ever a situation where a player is justified not turning up for training?
I don't think so, mate. No, I don't.
No situation ever. No situation. There's no situation you can think of.
If it's coming towards the end of his contract, and I don't know, there's something really massively personal that's gone on, then fair enough. But for 3 years to go, and he fancies a move now. But like I keep on saying, all us fans have agreed and accepted that if Harry Kane moves on, he goes with our full blessing. We've all said it. We don't blame him. But by doing this, the blessings have halved, if not even more. And then, like I say, it's given the chance for some of the fan base to actually stick the finger in Can's face and say, mate, you're not Spurs anymore, which hurts me, because he's a Spurs legend. He's Spurs through and through. I just think I'm not going to say he's been ill-advised, because he's a 28-year-old man, father, husband. He knows what he's doing. I just think, mate, he just got it wrong, and he probably acted hastily. I bet you there's a part of him sitting at home going, shit, man, I shouldn't have done that. I bet you. But like I say, he could still force a move by turning up. I think this circus we just don't need it. At Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, we've been a circus for God knows how long, and it could have been all prevented, mate. We're just a fucking laughing stock at the moment.
Yeah, it's a very sad situation. We can all agree. Look, I'm saddened by it. I'm not happy with how it's all playing out, and I was hoping and praying it didn't come to this. But there was something in the back of my mind that always told me that it was a possibility, and
Yeah.
now we're here. And do you think? How do you think Kane's teammates are thinking right now of what this whole situation? Do you think they're understanding of his position and don't hold it against him, or do you think that they're a bit insulted that he's that desperate to get away from them? He's willing to miss training. What do you reckon in terms of him being reintegrated back into the team? Should he come back to training? How would it affect that? Do you think?
I think because they know him personally, Sim. I'm sure would have been some form of conversation. They're probably, WhatsApping and texting or calling each other all day, and they probably do see his point of view a bit more, because it's not been to us. It's been all of a sudden. So to us, we didn't expect him not to turn up for training yesterday. But with the players, I'm sure he's probably spoken to a number of them saying, right, guys, this is what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. And they probably all expected it. And he's probably given them the reasons that we haven't had. We've not had any form of clarity from even the K Cab or a Spur. Even if it's a nothing, Sim, even if the statement is a nothing, even if it's a bullshit statement saying he's staying at home because of COVID, we don't know. That might be right, that might be wrong. But at least put something out to prevent all this crap. Don't you think we've had enough over the last 2 months since the end of last season? The constant guessing, the constant crap that is coming our way, that we could have done without this. And the simplest way of doing it is either Kane turning up to training or putting some form of clarity out by either the Kane camp or Spurs camp, even if it was a lie, just to die it all down. Because I don't know who's doing the PR out at Spurs, but because, mate, we're anything but a big club at the moment. Anything, we're a comedy club.
All right, Bob. Good to speak to you.
Mate.
Looks like by the way, it just looks like the Romero deal. All very, very positive surrounding that. Is that something at least to get a bit excited about? Are you starting to get a bit happy about that deal coming through? Is it a welcome distraction from the Kane news, or is it something Kane you can't still get your mind off the Harry Kane news?
Till they're holding the shirt, Sim. Till they're
holding the shirt. Till they're holding the shirt. All right, Bob.
Big
Good
up,
to see
mate.
you, my friend.
Legend, mate. Legend.
Speak to you soon. Nice
Cheers,
to see you, my friend. All right, those are Bob Spur's opinions on the whole Harry Kane situation. It's still we're getting conflicting reports on the Kane situation. Some saying he's returning to training, some saying he's not. He doesn't want to train again for Tottenham. Daily Mail now saying Harry Kane is isolating after jetting home from the break in the Caribbean. It's difficult to piece truth, fiction from non-fiction, and what's true or not. According to the Telegraph now, bit of breaking news, it's saying that Harry Kane is considering handing in a transfer request to the club, and that is from Mike McGrath of the Daily Telegraph. So that is a bit of breaking news. Harry Kane considering a transfer request, handing that one into Tottenham, and that would be a big blow if he was to do that. That would weaken Tottenham's position even more. But let's get some more opinions. First of all, a super chat from Ribsy85. He says, "Cheers, Harry. Son's crying." Love that. Nice little meme. And then Wilder Metal says, "This can turn into Sol Campbell Part 2. I don't think so, mate. I don't know if you realise what happened with Sol Campbell. He left on a free after saying he was going to sign a new contract and then went to our biggest rivals. I don't think anything can compare to Sol Campbell, so I wouldn't even put Kane and Campbell in the same sentence. All right, let's get another guest on. Abhishek? I'm sorry if I butchered that. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, get my head around all the Kane talk, all the Kane rumors, and trying to split what's true, what's not true, what to believe. What's your current stance on the Kane situation? Just a quick recap. He's missed 2 days of training. Reports are saying he's set to return at the end of the week. Where do you stand on it?
No, I saw a really good meme, a sort of a meme from Odds Bible today morning. Harry Kane is giving the Harvey Dent vibe. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think that is what is happening with Harry right now. last year everyone together were happy to see him go. We were willing to let him go with a positive vibe, with positivity all around. But now the things that he's doing, not showing up unannounced, if there was a particular reason that was given to us, then it would have been more acceptable for the fans and the club as well. But there's just no sort of communication from his end or his team. And even Tottenham haven't been, I think Tottenham should have come out with a statement of any sort, like Bob said. There's just no addressal of this whole matter, and it lets media run free and wild with it. There are different sort of viewpoints, different rumors, which basically just damages the club even more. We are not in a strong position as of now, and what he's doing, it will only drive his price down rather than going up. What Levy will expect from him. And after, once if Harry Kane actually puts in the transfer request, I don't think Levy is going to let him go, because he it will be like, it will be the same case. He will say, well, I'll keep you for another year and I'll get 100 million next year, so I'll at least get another good season out of you. Because we know if Harry Kane is on the pitch, he'll give his 100%. His head might go like Ericsson, but we know, because of the quality that Harry Kane has and possesses, I think he can still give more than what his replacement would. So I think Daniel Levy will be like, okay, I'll just keep you and not let you go. Because I think it is a wise choice from Levy as well, not selling to a direct rival. I mean, we are nowhere near City, but it is in the same league, and we don't want to increase the competition because we are very far behind those clubs, and we don't want to help them go even further ahead. So I think no Spanish club is going to come for Harry Kane. That is not happening, because they just don't have the money to do it. um Italian clubs, nothing. So I don't see anywhere for Harry Kane to go other than Manchester City. Or if United are feeling more adventurous, I think even United could step into Harry Kane, because I think it would be a really blockbuster and a really, a signing that would really launch Manchester United into a title winning season. So I think those are the only two realistic clubs that Harry Kane could actually go to.
I agree, but if I agree with what you're saying, but if it's Levy's stance that we're not going to sell to a Premier League rival, and no teams abroad are going to come in for him, then how else is he supposed to go about trying to get a move to Man City? How can he do it if he because he knows if he plays it straight, comes to training, doesn't kick up a fuss, he's not going to get the move. The move won't happen because we're not going to sell to a Premier League club. And if he doesn't kick up a fuss, and if he doesn't try and force it, then Levy's just going to turn it down. If our stance is we're not going to sell to a Premier League club under any circumstances, so what else is he supposed to do?
No, I completely.
Yeah, what else is he supposed to do?
completely- I completely understand why he is doing so, but what the problem that he's going to have is really convincing Daniel Levy, because Daniel Levy will. We have heard that news that Daniel Levy is willing to sell, but the price is 160 million, and I don't see City. I mean, City would easily match that and not stress about it. But I don't honestly feel like City would spend 160 million on Harry Kane. I mean, obviously we know Pep wants him. Pep loves him. Manchester City knows that if they sign Kane, they have a top class striker for the next 5 to 6 years. The way he plays, so it makes sense from City's side to sign Harry Kane. There's no problem there. But also thinking from Levy's perspective, why would he let him go? I mean, I know. I mean, a player of Harry Kane's, ilk deserves, all the top trophies. Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, top scorer. He's already doing that at Tottenham. Just imagine him doing that at City. He would propel to another level.
But
But
I'm saying if Spurs aren't willing to deal with Man City, if we're not willing to, if it is the case, we're not willing to sell to see under any circumstances, even if they do bid 150 million, which has been part of the rumours. Like,
Yeah.
as Spurs fans, are we saying to Kane that you just have to suck it up, and you have to still turn up to training, and you have to stay here because no one of the team's coming in for him? Or as Spurs fans, are we saying if you want to agitate for a move to Man City, are you seeing as where Spurs are at the moment, that's understandable.
No,
Where do you stand on
see,
that?
with Harry Kane, it's completely different matter because there's a sort of different emotional connect with Harry Kane, because he is a diamond. We don't want him to go, but we understand that he wants to leave. So I feel like Harry Kane, he needs to do what he needs to do.
Oh, is he cut off? Looks like Abhishek's cut off. Apologies, my friend, but thank you for calling in. That was a good call. It looks like you've just cut off right at the end, but thank you for giving your opinions. I did appreciate talking to you. Let's get the Joracle on. I want to get Joracle's perspective on things because I know he's going to have something to say. I know he always has a strong opinion. Jory, always good to speak to you, my friend. Thanks for coming on again. How you been?
Hey Sim, I'm good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, thanks. Well, I'm trying to do okay. I'm trying to get my head around the whole Harry Kane situation. He's missed a second day of training today. Reports are saying he's set to return to training at the end of the week. What is your take on the current state of play with the Harry Kane situation?
Well, yeah, first of all, I think like it sounds like a bit of a logical fallacy that he missed the second day of training, but he's yet to do his isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Really. So, if I put my tinfoil hat on, I'm thinking now talks are ongoing actually. Now Harry, and that's why we're seeing a little bit of a softening from Harry Kane as well, because Levy now is picking up the phone from Man City probably, and something's happening again. And what I suspect, because Harry Kane this is very out of character, so I suspect they had talks going, and Levy basically stonewalled them, and Harry wasn't having it, and so he put this pressure on, and now maybe something's going again, and I think maybe towards the end of the week we'll start hearing something about that. Is kind of what, if I have to make one of my predictions, I think that's probably something that makes sense in my view, especially this story about him having to isolate now is basically a way to keep him out of training without anybody losing face. So which Man City would want to keep him out of training if they're gonna go in for a buy.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I think like it shouldn't be any surprise. I don't think like I mean, if you're so upset with Harry Kane as a fan, I don't really, how can you justify that when you haven't been screaming all out Levy out, since it's been obvious for now 3 years that the club was not gonna back his caliber up. You can't have a player of this caliber and not go for it. If you don't go for it, the player will, usually a lot sooner than Harry Kane, force their way out. And it's like it's to our shame that we're making Harry Kane have to force his way out. He never wanted to do this, but he's not an idiot. He knows how many years he's got. He knows he's not going to go for a title with us the next couple of years. So he needs to get out. He wants to break records. It's perfectly within anything that's normal and decent. He's never treated the club badly. He's shown like 5,000 times more ambition than the management of this club. So what can you ask more of him? I mean, I think Harry thinks this is just as awful as we do. This situation. I think Levy is probably the least bothered by it as such. He doesn't like his own ego getting dragged through the mud. I mean, if you look at it like, if you're paying attention, like I keep saying, we know how bad Levy looks now. He completely lied and fumbled the whole re-recruitment of a coach this summer, and now he's got this Harry Kane situation in a complete drama soap opera situation. And the truth about players and personalities of this level, they're almost as big a brand as our own club. Our club is bigger, but when they say they want to go, it's not a question of, no, you've got the contract, you need to stay. That means, Daniel Levy, now you need to go out and you need to do your dealings and you need to get your price. I don't care what it is, but you need to do your work now if you want, if you want this to end in a good way. And Daniel's not been doing that, because to some extent, I think Daniel Levy thinks that he might have he might score some brownie points with the fan base by taking a hard stance on this. And he is scoring points with the, sorry to say it, dim-witted, non-following casual fans, like we've often talked about. Like, guys, this is Daniel Super League Levy, who's pissed off every negotiating partner in Europe through the years. Burning your bridges like this, that's gonna come home to roost. And where are the guys that are gonna pay for it? Nobody want, like, if you're an agent and you have a list of clubs that you want to deal with, you're gonna go last to Tottenham because Levy is known as the worst possible person to deal with. And for prospects, let's say we get on a bit of a run now with this new project. A-listers in the future, their agents are going to be aware of Levy's reputation. He needs to get completely out of everything. Paratici is doing a good job. We see that. Paratici is managing to do good things in spite of Levy. Levy is almost fucking up this Romero deal. That's all Levy. Like it's, of course, Atalanta has some reservations. All right, but they put a clear price, so just pay the money. Like Paratici said, you identify your player, you need to go for him. You can't be faffing around. There's no backup plan to a Romero. It's all we really got for the level of CB we need to take over now. So I think it's a damn shame. I predict though still this Man City deal is gonna go through, and like that's also the other thing is like when you have a goat like Kane is, like look at Barcelona. Barcelona has had Messi. Barcelona is in a financial trouble and all that. But if you look away from that, you can look with Madrid and Ronaldo, or Juventus and Ronaldo now. It's a bit of a stagnation as a club as well. When you have a player that's so overpoweringly good, everything needs to it almost becomes Harry Kane FC, and that's great. We've been privileged to have that, but now it's time to kind of let the clock turn and take on the next chapter, and he wants to go. This is the summer to get the best price for him, by the way. He goes in now and he gets injured, in addition to getting a year older and the drama now with the club. It's going to have a huge effect on his price. So this is the time that we need to face the fact that Kane wants to go, and rightfully so, and we should let him go, and we should do it in a manner that's beneficial for us, both in terms of money, but also in terms of replacements, of course. So we should have been working on this like all the second part of the season all the time, because it was clear already then that this was most likely to happen, so. And also, we also need to do it in a beneficial way that like our own brand doesn't get dragged through the mud. Like look at Arsenal and Özil. That did not do either any favors, and I would say Arsenal actually comes out the worst. Because Özil's one player, and might have sure it hurt him, but Arsenal need to sign new players, and this is always going to be something that people notices and know about Arsenal. Oh yeah, they they basically stole, or like however you look at it, like Özil lost 2 years of his career in that argument, So that's not something that an A-lister finds attractive, So I don't think we're doing ourselves any favor now by taking this harsh stance. We should be, of course, aggressive in our negotiations. We should be going for 100 million plus Laporte. That's the other thing. Tottenham with Kane as they are, or Tottenham without Kane and with Laporte and Romero, like that's a better, the latter is a better Tottenham as a team, because our problem is not scoring goals. Our problem is organization, defense mainly. Of course, we'll have a big hole when Kane leaves, but this is probably the area where we most can afford to get a knock down, to get a step down, and yeah, I'm sure. Also, by the way, sorry guys,
Mm.
I'm sure that both. I already said it. I believe Lucas is gonna have an amazing time under Nuno. I also think Sonny will take the next step up. To be honest, I think Sonny, not by any design or anything, but just inevitably has been playing a little bit second fiddle to Kane, and now it's his time to become the main man, I think.
What do you say to fans who believe that Harry Kane is disrespecting the fans and should be honouring his contract before thinking about not turning up to training? What do you say to those fans who believe Kane is being disrespectful?
I mean, I say to those fans, what are you being towards Harry Kane? What's your respect towards Harry Kane when you do not participate in the ENIC out, Levy out pressure, which has made Harry Kane have to carry a completely subpar, I would say almost mid-tier team the last 2 years without any support from the board. What kind of a respect is that from us as fans, not to be all out shouting for the removal, at least the removal of Daniel Levy of Football Matters? Like, this man only has one life, one career. He needs to do what's right for him as well, and for what's right for his family. And like with Harry, it's not even the money; it's pure sportsman ambition, which you can't fault that. We have basically thrown the towel in towards realizing his ambitions. We had a perfect chance. We had it with Pochettino. We had it. We could have refreshed that squad, as Pochettino talked about. We would have gotten there. I'm sure. It's not a law of physics that Spurs will never win anything, even though our rivals like to put it.
Feels like they will sometimes. It does feel like that.
Yeah, but it's not a law of physics. It's a law of Levy right now. It's a law of Levy that we won't win anything. Now, I have a little bit of hope that both. I think Nuno is a kind of a ball breaker. He's a hard guy, and I think Paratici can hold his own. So I have a little bit of a hope that Levy actually shot himself a bit in the foot and got two guys in that can actually tango with him, because Levy is very careful of having everybody very cozy and soft and nice around him. And that was Pochettino's downfall in the end, I think, was he was too overbearing with Levy. He should have used his winning position. He should have started on the pushback when he was in a stronger position. But I think these guys know completely who they're dealing with in Levy, and I think they're both strong enough. I think probably Paratici is more of a practical, diplomatic guy. I actually kind of think Nuno is no nonsense. He wants all the dead wood out, and like I think this is from Nuno, like with the Romero and stuff like that. Is like, this is not gonna work. I'm not gonna work under these conditions. I kind of. The more I learn about Nuno, the happier I am with him. So and I think he's a very good project manager for us now. And that's what we have. We have a project. Projects are a good time. It's like now we're at the bottom, you know. Now we're it's only going to be good news the next couple of years, I think, in terms of, you know, we're going to be seeing a lot of good stuff happening, but it's not as contenders for the title, you know. So please
Definitely
let
not.
Harry go and do his career like he deserves. Like we all know, we know he's supposed to break all these records. We're not going to give him that opportunity.
And is there an argument to say he's being a bit disrespectful to Nuno, seeing as he hasn't really given him an opportunity to speak to him and he hasn't turned up to any of his training sessions? Or do you think this is not a Nuno problem? This is something bigger.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to involve your ego and everything, I can you can, like, Nuno could definitely kind of spin it that way, but I don't think. I think everybody understands that this is simply, unfortunately, what he needs to do to force the move, and of course you could make the argument that at least he should hear him out, at least he should give Nuno a chance and whatever. That's what Harry Kane has been doing for so long now. He did it with Mourinho, you know. He did it, you know, with Potts all these years, and every time it's come down to, unless you are of the opinion that Harry Kane and the players just didn't play well enough at their best, or whatever. For me, it's very obvious that when we needed, we got very high. We really got into great territory with our club, and we needed to take a little bit of a step. It wouldn't even have been that expensive, and we would have been all over the line, I think. Of course, nothing is given in football, but at least we would have done everything that we needed to do to give ourselves a chance of winning real silverware. But we all know that we didn't do that. We left it short, you know. So I don't think that you can. I don't think Harry Kane has. There's nothing directed towards Nuno. Of course, Nuno is the coach and all that, but I think both of them are wise enough men to not take it at all like that. Of course, if you're Nuno, you would love to work with Kane, you know, to keep and all that. But also, if you're Nuno, you would also love to get the cast that Harry Kane will generate. And like for me, just go get the 100 million and Laporte or something, one of the discontented superstar players that Man City has as well. You know, like I heard a couple of months ago that both Laporte and Cancelo were very unhappy at Man City because of their irregular play time. So I don't think it's, you know, it shouldn't, you know, Tottenham in this project is a pretty good prospect, I think, for a player like that, you know. So I think Romero, people are saying don't understand why Romero wants to come and stuff like that. I understand it. This is a very good stage and platform for him to become the world class defender that we all hope he's going to be, like established, you know, like a Ramos type name in the game. You know, that Tottenham is a very good kind of stage to bring all the world's attention on you and lift you up to that next level as a brand or as a personality. Of course, we now want to make our club be that as well, you know, but I don't know. You know, I just hope like things keep going. Kind of. I hope we can keep backing Levy into a corner and he can relinquish more and more power. I don't mind Levy running the front end, the front end of the shop, you know, like the retail facing side of things. He's good at that. I'll give him respect for the work he's done there. That's not bad at all. I mean, it's a shame that you and Ben have to pay, you know, I don't know, a good chunk of your year wages for the tickets and stuff like that. But that's just how it is, you know. But he should stay absolutely away from football. And I hope, like, come next season or something, he won't even be negotiating the money in these things. You know? So.
All right, Jory.
Yeah.
Always good to speak to you, my friend. Always good to get your
Likewise.
opinions. Always
Yes.
great to have you on. And hopefully this saga can get dealt with sooner rather than later. But I've got a feeling it's going to rumble on for a long time yet. But no, you
it's
definitely get that
Tottenham,
feeling. Exactly. Nothing's ever quick with Tottenham, that's for sure.
No,
We
it's
can
a soap
definitely say
opera.
that. That's what we live for.
Episode 978 coming up. Right?
Here we go. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Jory. Good to speak to you, my
see
friend.
You, Sim. Keep up
Good
the
to see
great
you.
work.
Thank
Okay.
you, man. Much
Bye-bye.
appreciated. We'll see you soon. All right, that was the Joracle giving his opinions on the Harry Kane situation. How many more callers we got? Got 3 more. All right, let's keep going. Let's get through these callers then. Let's get Jaden back on. Jaden was on yesterday. How you doing, my friend? You okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing all right. We're just obviously trying to piece together what we feel on the Harry Kane situation, on the current developments. We're now hearing he's potentially isolating because of he came back late from a holiday, so apparently he has to isolate until the end of the week. There's obviously reports now he's going to return to training the end of the week, but obviously he has skipped another day of training today. What's your opinions on the state of play right now on the Kane situation? Any update on your opinion from yesterday?
Well, I think the isolating is a bit of a smokescreen for him missing training and him realizing that he's made a few bad decisions today and yesterday, because the last thing he wants is for the fans to turn on him and he has to stay at Spurs because it won't end well. But on the other side, I do feel like he's made his statement, and him returning to training is a boost because he's the best player on our squad. But I just don't feel like him being around the whole squad. I feel like if he does come back to training, Nuno should let him train individually, because him in the squad, I feel like it's going to mix up emotions, it's going to rattle the squad, and that's the last thing we need right now going into the season.
And do you think, you think it's got the potential to unsettle the squad, or do you think that it's kind of the players in the squad will be understandable of his position and that it won't really affect them should he be reintegrated back into the team? How do you feel about that?
The thing is, we are all understandable except from Levy. The fans are, I'd say his teammates are, we all know that he shouldn't be at Spurs, but the way he's handled it is unacceptable. But as the best player in the Tottenham squad, the England captain, the vice captain, if he comes back in training and everyone hears the rumours and that, he's definitely, to me, definitely going to rattle the squad, because your best player is mixed in the saga. You don't know if he's going to stay, he's going to go, if his head's in it or not. And we don't know if he's going to come back and give his 100%, like Eriksen in his last season, he down tools. We don't know. So that's why I said he should be training individually until there's actually a clear solution where we're going to leave or he's ready to stay and actually give his all to the club.
Yeah, I feel that as well. I think maybe it could have a negative effect, but in terms of Harry Kane himself and the actions he's taking, are you completely condemning them? Do you think he's absolutely wrong to do what he's doing under any circumstances, or do you feel like to get his move, this is the only way he can go? This is the only, seeing as Spurs supposedly don't want to deal with any Premier League clubs, the only way he could get this move is if he kind of agitates a bit.
I think Kane's realised all these years how hard Daniel Levy's been. Like, all of our fans know that Daniel Levy has been mugging off this club for years and years and years. I'd say we'd be a top successor if it wasn't for him. And I realised we support Tottenham. We don't support Harry Kane. So as a club, as our love for the club, we are going to get angry when he's missing training and he's not turning up. But as a player, and as we know him a player, we can't be mad because we know he deserves so much more from what he's actually getting from the club. He deserves so much more. He deserves a team like Man City, but the manner he's doing it in, obviously I can't accept it because I'm a Tottenham supporter, obviously club. But he should know deep down that the fans always will have his back. But if he's going to start like playing villain, I don't know if it's if it's his brother. I really believe his brother is the reason why this is all happening. Because I don't think Harry Kane, on his own will and opinions, think, oh yeah, let me miss training to rattle squad. I think his brothers told him something about, if you don't actually show that you really want to go to Man City, it's not going to happen, and that you're not going to get your move. And I think he's started to realise that that's his only way out, because he doesn't want to go to a foreign club. Only PSG, if we're being realistic, only PSG is probably the only option, and they've been spending way more. So I don't think they're going for him. And we all know he wants to stay in the Premier League. He wants that record. He wants to win the Premier League. He wants it all. So really and truly, Levy's backing him to a corner where either he stays or he has to do whatever he can to get out of the club.
Yeah, I know. It's sad that it's come to this situation, isn't it? We'd all hope this is the one player that we would avoid this kind of situation with, but unfortunately, it kind of seems like he's been backed into a corner where, from my opinion, I kind of see it that he sees that he has no option, as much as it hurts him doing it. But at the end of the day, do you see this transfer going through? Do you see Man City stumping up the cash, 150 million for Harry Kane? And do you know, by the end of the window, do you think he's going to be a Tottenham player?
The one thing is that no one can take away from Levy is every time there's been a player that wants to move, he does get the best deal for us. If it doesn't mean spending it right, he does get the best deal in terms of he gets the cash that we actually need and that we actually earn. But I do feel like he's going to go at some point. It depends on how his actions keep going. If he decides to keep playing villain, I think he's kind of forcing Levy's hand as Levy's forcing his hand, saying either it's a foreign club or you stay. I think he's going to try do the same thing Levy's doing to him and kind of bully him into a move to get him to move to Man City. But I just don't see Man City spending 150 million on Kane. But realistically, we all wouldn't mind, the fans and everyone else wouldn't mind 100 million on a port, because that's still good money and we're getting a quality defender. But as I see it, Levy's not going to take nothing less than 150. And if it's not that, then see him as a Spurs player, but we all know it's not going to be the Harry Kane that we want it to be. And if he's starting every week, it's gonna cause tensions between the squad, the fans, because if he's not giving his all, you got to remember the fans are coming back into the stadium. You never know, the fans going to turn on him, boo on him, and it's just going to feel like it's going to turn into such a disgusting situation when it shouldn't, because he's given so much years to us when he shouldn't have. Like, so many years he hasn't moaned, he hasn't put a foot wrong, but as soon as he puts a foot wrong, it's like everyone's against him. So it's really sad to see that it has to be him, all players. But as I see it, he's probably will remain a Spurs player by the end of the transfer window.
All right, that's Jaden's prediction. Thank you for coming on as always, mate. Good to speak to you.
Good show, thank you.
Thank you, man. Much appreciated. And we'll speak to you in a bit. I'm sure we'll speak to you again soon. Nice one, my friend. We got some super chats to get through. Tim Falco says, without Kane, will be great pressing will be a great pressing high line attacking team. If we use the money well, now is the time to revamp the squad and get back in the top four. So he's of the opinion maybe we could even be better without Harry Kane. The King says Harry Kane casually isolating after holiday in Caribbean. That's after reports from the Daily Mail. And Quida Boateng says 100% agreed with Joru. We are one-dimensional with Kane. If we sell Kane, fix defence, bolster attack and give Son and the rest a shot, rebuild should be a priority. And, you know, I understand that point of view. Maybe we could improve with Harry Kane if we spend the money right on the right players to fit a certain system. And that's definitely true. But it's all about our recruitment. And that's how we got to see it. Otherwise, if we spend it wrong like we did back in 2013, it'll be a disaster. Who we got next? Let's get Dono on. Oh, has he just gone off? Oh, no, he's still there. How you doing, Dono? You all right?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
I'm good, my friend. How you been?
A bit of a weird summer.
Yeah, definitely true that.
I kind of tailed off at the end of last season there based off of what happened with Jose and everything, and then I wasn't too convinced with Mason, and then oh man, it's just been shambles.
Yeah, it has been a bit of a shambles, but at the moment there's a bit of a standoff between Kane and the club. Kane's kind of going on strike, not turning up for training. Although there are reports he is set to return at the end of the week. What's kind of your take on the situation?
Oh, it pains me to say it because Harry Kane's my hero, but I mean, he made his choice. He's a professional. Let him go. I mean, what are we going to do? Are we going to delusionally put him on the bench and, I don't know, turn him in Vela and throw him down to the reserves? Like, no, he made his choice. He has to go. I saw a quote, someone over there across the pond, because I'm in Canada, but someone over across the pond, I think it was Talk Sport, saying, like, he's an idol, like he's England's captain, he's number 9, like he's the best player in England. I mean, like, kids look up to him, idol, role model. Like, what kind of example are we going to show here? You know, like, are we saying that we're going to let him embarrass us on a public stage of that? I mean, Tottenham, our international club, we made it to a Champions League final. We just had a final this year. Sure, we played in the Europa League, big deal. We're trying to take the next step up. If we're going to go from the best of the rest to a consistent top 4 team, we need players that want to play for the badge, not somebody who doesn't want to be there. Quite frankly, I'm tired of him sitting around 3 months broken every year. He gets a golden boot. I mean, okay, let's get 120 million for him. Oh, would I've loved to see him stay at the club and win something? Oh yeah, we had that chance 4 times. Where were you? Right? So, as much as it pains me to say it, time to move on. And yeah, 120 million. We revamped that front line. We get running again like we're under Poch. I remember that last season at the Lane, man. They couldn't even pass the ball over half. We were there. We were suffocating them. And man, I'd give anything to see Tottenham play like that again. And if it means giving Harry Kane away, then wow, what an exchange.
Yeah, mate. So you think maybe getting the money for Harry Kane, revamp the squad, it can maybe help Tottenham move forward, and maybe that painful rebuild that everyone's been talking about, it might be more painful than we anticipated because Kane's the one leaving, but maybe it's necessary.
Yeah, you don't make any omelets without breaking the eggs. I mean, it's Harry Kane, unfortunately. I was looking back, I compare this to Dortmund. Have they replaced Lewandowski? Yeah, with Aubameyang. Have they replaced Aubameyang? Yeah, with Haaland. Will they replace Haaland? Yeah, with someone. It's the life of football. Does it suck that Harry Kane has to leave? Yeah, I mean it does. But at this point, what do? He's being publicly defiant. He's making our club look weak, and with that master manipulator at their helm, man, you just pissed off the wrong man in the world of football. You're not gonna. That's not what you're going to do. You don't negotiate a move by doing that, especially with Daniel Levy. So, as your last caller said, yeah, I mean, give Daniel Levy credit. He'll get the best price he can for Kane. But, I mean, Sonny always stood up. Lucas always stood up. Man, maybe we'll have Bamford or Ings wearing a Spurs shirt at the end of this. But all I'm done. I think my ship has sailed for Kane.
Have you lost a bit of respect for him with this whole saga, or do you think it was necessary?
Like, ever since I was a kid, I was looking up to Kane, and now I'm 24, and I'm looking at him at the prime of his career, and I'm looking at him like, really? So that's how you're gonna handle yourself? Like, I look at the greats, like Ronaldo didn't even conduct himself that when he left Man United, and Bale even had a bit more on his skin, and Kane doesn't hold a candle next to Bale, and Bale was on his prime. So I'm sorry. You had 4 chances of winning trophies with us, and every single time we walked 60, 70 minutes on that pitch. Like, I still remember that picture of him looking back at Van Dijk and Trent holding that Champions League, and he's looking back at him like that. Like, well, I mean, come on, man.
Well, it's a team sport, isn't it? It's not all down to Harry Kane because we didn't win those trophies.
I know. It's not that. You can even blame Son. You can blame Lucas. You can blame anyone, any other attacking players. You can blame the goalie. I know. You just want a scapegoat of this situation, and unfortunately, he lost a lot of respect by acting that way. And you could argue that yes, how does he force his move? How does he get his hand? But the reality is, if he wanted to move, You signed a 6-year contract 2 years ago, man. Like, why would you do that? If you knew Tottenham were in a place that was, hey, we just came from a Madrid final and we weren't showing any ambition in the transfer market or in development or recruitment, and I don't know. At that point, I'm thinking, after the Madrid final, who did we bring in? We brought in Lo Celso. We brought in Dembele. Was that enough?
Well,
Is that really
in the summer that you signed the contract, we actually signed no one. We didn't sign a single player
okay.
in that summer.
Okay, so
But
there you go. So we're pushing on. Like, there's no backing.
yeah,
So,
but
I can
maybe
see-
he had promises. Maybe he was promised, Spurs are only at the start, and we're going to
Well, there
really
you
push
go,
on.
there
And
you go. It's a
yeah, but what?
toxic mix all around. And
When's
Nunes
the club? Where's the club's responsibility in that though? Kane signed the contract maybe under certain promises and conditions, and I think, in my opinion, he's held up his end in his performances, but have the club held up their end in how they've tried to push on?
Has he held up his end his performances? He's our number man. He's Harry Kane. He's supposed to put the back on our club, and when we're not scoring goals in the 80th minute, from the 80th to the 90th minute, he puts the club on our back and he wins us that game in Madrid. And he didn't.
Well, he was the one last season. He got most goals and most assists.
Juventus was in that Champions League, in the Champions League knockout round. I think they needed 3 goals. I think Ronaldo scored up and scored all 3 goals.
Yeah.
So
against Atletico Madrid.
Unfortunately, like I love him so much. It's Harry Kane, but I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a bit different. Ronaldo has a lot better players of Juventus next to him, right? Harry Kane has to deal with Moussa Sissoko passing him the ball. You know what I mean? It's a bit different. It says the caliber of player is not going to be the same, and I think under the circumstances, he's done as well as he could have. I think last season, most goals, most assists in the league. I think whenever he's called upon, he's always going to be always getting goals. I think his caliber of performance has never really dropped. So what more could he have done from his point of view in those 3 years?
I just have to ask you, think that Harry Kane of second half of last season was the best Harry Kane that there could have been? Like, I mean, the first half was amazing under Mourinho. He was like, I don't think I've ever seen a player play like that in the Premier League, maybe in this era. To be honest, he was amazing. Like, he was pinging passes 60 yards on your boot. It was amazing. Playmaker, goal scorer extraordinaire. But once Mason came in, you saw like Eriksen. You saw him play with you saw him drop, and you knew right away that like he was looking for an exit. And we don't need players like that. We need a player that, hey, we're in a transitional period. We haven't even had a full season where we get a full capacity in our stadium yet. Like, we are in a scenario right now where everything needs to come together as a club. We need our star man behind us, and we don't need this rift. And if we can get over 100 million for him and a star player and redo it, I mean, Liverpool did it. That's the only one I can really compare because it's a modern era. They did it with Suarez and Coutinho. We do it with Eriksen and Kane, and hopefully Levy doesn't use that money as a bank payment. So.
Let's hope so. Dono, good to speak to you, my friend. Good to have you on again.
Yeah. Come on, you Spurs. Let's go.
Come on, you Spurs. Let's see what happens in the future. Good to have you on, my friend.
Cheers. Thanks for your work.
No worries, bro. No worries. And is this the last call of the day?
Yeah.
No?
No.
How many more we have?
One more after.
All right. Let's get... Oh, Dan THFC. He's changed his name.
Yeah.
A bit of a switch. Bit of a
I had to
switcheroo.
I had to change my channel name because of the monetization.
I see.
Just-
I understand. Well, Dan THFC, welcome to the new channel name. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you're doing all right. What's your take on the current situation with Harry Kane?
I think it's a little bit of both sides. I think it was wrong from Harry Kane not to show up to training. But it was also a case of, if we weren't in this situation, do you think if we were in a Champions League spot with Sabitzer and Dybala and Skriniar on our team, do you think Kane would be in the situation where he'd have to not show up to practice because he'd want to leave the club? No, we wouldn't. So the club is also to blame as well. But I honestly think the situation with Kane was planned. I don't think he just woke up in the morning and decided not to come to training because he didn't feel like it. Before, like a month ago, back when the Euros was still going on, I saw a report that said that that the England squad had predicted Harry Kane not to show up to training for Tottenham Hotspur, and it was from the Sun, so I just threw that in the bin. But because obviously it's the son. But it ended up being true, and I'm shocked. Honestly, I cannot believe it's Harry Kane that did this. This is not like Harry Kane. A lot of people are saying that it's his brother. It's his brother. Look, um, I don't have a sibling, but I know I would love a sibling. But I surely won't let him decide my career.
So you think people saying that it's onto his brother that's giving Charlie Kane too much credit?
I just don't think it's. I mean, today earlier on, I saw a tweet from Charlie Kane about it, but it ended up being a fake account, so you could say I was trolled. But look, Charlie Kane, obviously, I think Kane deserves a way better agent. But yeah, he contracted his brother. But look, Charlie Kane, I still maybe he could have told him something about it, but it's not all because Charlie Kane told him, and now he's just gonna go out and listen to Charlie Kane and end his career with Tottenham Hotspur just because his brother told him to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think his Charlie will listen to Harry and do what Harry wants. I don't think it's a case where Harry's doing what Charlie wants. I think Harry's probably like, I want to move. What do you think the best way of going about this move is? And then Charlie saying, well, you probably have to do this and that. But Harry wanting to move is definitely coming from himself. I don't think it's coming from Charlie or anything like that. But do you think his methods right now were just disrespectful, or do you think they're understandable? What's your take on it?
A little bit of both. It's understandable that he'd have to go to these measures. When we look at the chairman, how stubborn do you think he was in these conversations with Harry Kane? He was probably telling him, no, you're not leaving. So now that's made Harry pissed, and obviously what happened is he didn't come to training, which obviously was disrespectful. He spit on the badge. But at the end of the day, Harry Kane does not hate Tottenham Hotspur. He hates Daniel Levy. And that's where this needs to be separated. The fans, obviously, I feel that he disrespected the club, but it wasn't an attempt to disrespect the club, disrespect the fans. It was an attempt to bring attention to the situation from the board.
Fair enough. How do you see it playing out from now to the end of the window? Do you think he's going to get his move? Do you think Man City are going to stump up the cash, or do you think he's going to be a Spurs player come the 31st of August?
If he's a Spurs player, then it won't be. He definitely won't perform like he did last season, for sure.
You think he'll kind of lower his standards?
Everybody before, when the first one, Harry Kane was reportedly that he asked for a transfer. Everybody was saying he wasn't the type of player to underperform on purpose and like just sit in the pitch and just watch the ball roll by. Everybody was saying that he wasn't that type of player, and now he ended up doing this. It makes you wonder if Harry Kane's mindset has changed after the Euros, that he's just desperate for a trophy. I think this could be a situation after the Euros. He lost, and he's just desperate for a trophy, and he really, really wants to move for that, get that move to City. But look, Harry Kane, at the end of the day, it wasn't right what he did. It's understandable. It's like it's like if somebody tells you something that you don't like. Yeah, he shouldn't have told you that. But your response also matters as well. So in my opinion, Harry Kane was wrong to not go to training. But also, the club is at fault.
All right, Dan. Good to speak to you, my friend. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We've been going for nearly 2.5 hours, so we've got to get moving. But it's always good to speak to you. And I'm sure we'll hear from you soon. I'm sure we'll have you on soon, my friend. Good to see you, my friend.
Fantastic speaking to you as well.
Nice to see you. All right. And last one? All right, last but not least, I read out his Twitter thread earlier today, but we're going to get him on the show to get his opinions live. It's Cody Mack. Cody Mack. He's not in the mood. He's too depressed for it. Harry Kane's got him down in the dumps. Look, Cody, I read your thread. I pretty much agree with the most of what you said in terms of how Harry Kane's conducted himself and your opinions on that. What do you think? I want to get your opinions on the latest supposed developments coming out that Kane needs to isolate because of COVID, and he's gone on holiday from the Caribbean, so he can't come back to training anyway until he gets a negative test at the end of the week. Do you think that's maybe a bit of a PR spin, or do you think that's reality of the situation?
Oh, I think it's PR spin for sure, and I think it ties into contrary to what Bob Spur was saying about the club or Harry Kane coming out with an official statement in regards to that. I think the problem with if Harry Kane was to come out with an official statement, then there is really no way back from that. Whereas until something concrete happens, you always have that back door to this type of way of spinning what's going on. And that's, I mean, I don't want to take up too much of your time because honestly, let me just say, like, you are one hell of a content creator, man. Like sitting on here by yourself, reading the tweets and providing nonstop reaction and reasoned analysis. You are really a top content creator. So I give you all the credit in the world. What I do want to speak on is I did a poll on May 21st, right before the end of the season, and the question was, is Harry Kane a turncoat if he forces his way out? And the result of the poll was 87.3% of people said no. So just out of curiosity, I put the same question out, same wording yesterday, and 67.6% of people now say yes. So 55% of people, and of course not all the same people would have voted, and the poll has a different number of votes. I think that what's going on in terms of the reaction to Harry Kane skipping training yesterday and today is more a product of both the cumulative stress of what the club has been going through these past few months, and also people's expectations of Harry Kane as well. Because, I mean, you know as well as I do, if you were scrolling Twitter in the weeks leading up to what's going on, so many people were saying, Harry Kane would never do this. Harry Kane would never do that. And I, for one, mentally, I was prepared for him to do that from the moment that they sacked Jose, because I think it's just been on the cards since then. So anyone who is going into this news yesterday with this vision that Harry Kane would never do, of course they're going to be shocked and appalled that he would pull off something like this. Mentally, I've been prepared for this for quite some time. Emotionally, not so much. I mean, it's one thing to sit there and prepare yourself in your mind for the reality that's coming your way, but how do you break your own heart in advance of what happens, you know? But like I said, I really don't want to take up too much time because you've been on here for ages, and I really can't add much more. I agree with Jory's take. You know, that would be the simplest way of saying what I have to say. And man, just an amazing job by you this morning.
I know, I really appreciate it, Cody. And you're not wasting our time. I like having you on. You always give great opinions, and I always enjoy your analysis. And I really did enjoy your thread, by the way, because I think from a sea of just people raging about the situation, I think it was very reasoned, and I think it gave a very good overview, even pretty similar to how I feel on the situation. But do you feel, in terms of Harry Kane right now, yes, it's understandable, but do you think maybe to Nuno, he could have given him the courtesy of at least showing up to at the first opportunity to his first training session to even address the new manager? Or do you feel like that's not Kane's job anymore, to kind of be that man who needs to be like the best guy, you know, if you know what I mean? He needs to kind of play hardball if he needs to get that move. And even though there's a new manager and he has to, and in a perfect world, he'd respect him, like, there's a bigger problem here. It's not just like these smaller problems like respecting the new manager and stuff like that. It's like a bigger issue than that.
Well, look, I think it comes down to how serious Harry Kane is about leaving the club. Because if you're Harry Kane and you've sat here and over the years you've seen the lengths that other players have had to go to, and you've seen how difficult the process can be, if you've seen the likes of Christian Eriksen taking almost 2 years to get the move that he wanted away from the club, if you're seeing the likes of Serge Aurier, who's been public about his desire to leave, still at the club, it's difficult to say how Harry Kane is to achieve this type of a move without taking these types of extreme actions, and it hurts. You know, it just hurts, man. It just fucking hurts. And for me personally, to see civil war going on between a club that I love and a player who is my all-time favorite player. Yeah, it's just really difficult. So for me, it's not a situation where I'm willing to jump off the ledge and flush Kane's entire Tottenham legacy, which a lot of people seem to forget right now. You know, this man has bled for Spurs for quite some time, and I take particular issue with some of the people who say that he doesn't show up in finals. You know, like this is a man who's, when his name has been called, even when he hasn't been 100% fit, he's gone out there and he's given everything that he possibly could. For people who think that it was his decision to play in the Champions League final and his decision alone, I think that's a bit asinine. So he's earned this right for me. And you know what? That everyone is going to have a different way of looking at it, and I respect everybody's opinion for sure. I'm not about to flush the legacy of one of the all-time great players for Tottenham over one day or 1 week of training. Like I said in my thread, if he leaves Spurs, he's no longer a member of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and that's who I support. Just like everybody has been saying, no player is bigger than the badge, and we don't support Harry Kane FC. But just me personally, he's earned the right to exercise this course of action, and let's just wait and see how it plays out, because we are not close to the situation, and it's clear to me that there is so much about what's going on that none of us can possibly understand. So let's just back away from the ledge. You know, let's not, because he still might come back and bang 30 goals in for us this year and help us win an FA Cup. We really don't know what's going to happen. So that's just my personal perspective. But yeah, I can understand why people would be upset to the level that they are, for sure. But and I'm rambling now, but like social media,
I want to ask you something about Cody quickly about everyone talks about, you know, of when people are angry at Kane because he signed this contract, he's got 3 years left of his contract, no one forced him to sign the contract and he has to honour that contract, and I understand that point of view, but does no one do you think there's also responsibility when a player signs a contract like Kane, who was at the peak of his powers? He was he's a world-class talent at the time, 3 years ago, and he committed 6 years of his career to Tottenham Hotspur. Is there not a responsibility of the club as well, when a player signs that contract, to kind of match the ambitions of a player like Harry Kane in that sense? And is that kind of obligation from the club being overlooked by a lot of the fan base when they criticise Kane because he's the one who signed the contract, yet Tottenham, who obviously offered him the contract, aren't kind of holding up their end of the bargain in terms of how competitive and how ambitious we are?
Yeah, the way I look at the contract argument is that contracts are broken all the time. I mean, how many times do you see a contract actually go through to the very end? This is a business. I think what most people would take issue with is the fact that there's 3 years remaining on the deal, and I can understand that argument. All you have to do is look at where we were as a club when Harry Kane signed that contract. You know, we had just signed Poch up for another 5 years. We were challenging at the very uppermost tier of European football. We looked like we were ready to make the next leap. We were about to move into the new stadium. Everything was looking rosy. We had such high hopes. And basically, it's been a complete nosedive in terms of how the club has been run. And you know what? There have been mistakes made. I'm not going to say that there hasn't been an attempt to be competitive. It just hasn't worked out. You know, whether the signings that we have made haven't worked out. We went 3 windows without signing anybody, and we're kind of continuing to reap the repercussions of that as well. It's Harry Kane's 28 years old. Like I said before, he's looked at the situations that have taken so long to resolve with Daniel Levy and the board. If he wants to make a move away, even if he wants to make a move away next summer, you would think that he has to get the ball rolling and make his intentions known about how serious he is about this now, as opposed to waiting, because, you know, he's coming off one of his best statistical seasons of all time. He's coming off one of his healthiest seasons in 5 years. It's a huge risk for him to put himself out there for Tottenham Hotspur one more year and come back to the same situation at 29 years old next year. And who knows if anybody will be interested? Who knows if he suffers another ankle injury? It's just he has to take his destiny into his own hands. He has personal aspirations. He wants to leave a certain legacy behind, and he doesn't see that happening. The thing is, we're not even close, like since he signed that contract, we've sacked arguably our best manager that we've had in the modern era since maybe Keith Birkinshaw. We've sacked a manager who at the end of things, Harry Kane was the only one left standing, believing with him. Would we even be in the situation right now if we sacked Jose? I don't. It's such a difficult situation to parse out. It's not a black and white situation, that's for sure. And I just feel like there's a bit of an overreaction right now. And as things tend to do, when the ball starts rolling downhill, it tends to snowball quite quickly. And I don't want to compare it to a situation where someone receives racist abuse, but when you see someone criticized, it almost becomes like a pissing contest on social media who can become more and more outraged. So you're seeing bizarre takes in my eyes of him being compared to Sol Campbell and being called a snake and everything. And it's totally unreasonable in my eyes. And I think it's mostly coming from 17-year-old virgins, but that's just the way it is right now. And I think the only thing that we can all agree on is that it is an utter mess at this club right now. And we're all fucking sick of it at this point.
Could all agree on that. Cody, always good to speak to you, my friend. Always welcome on the channel, and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate all the compliments you were giving me earlier before as well. I do appreciate that, and it was good to see you.
Yep. Excellent work. Glory.
Thank you. Glory. All right, and I think that brings an end to the stream. It's been a massive stream, nearly 2.5 hours. We've had a lot of great calls, a lot of great opinions, and all the great tweets as well. I want to thank everyone today for who tuned in and interacted with us, sent super chats, sent comments, sent in your tweets as well. I want to thank everyone who were reacting, and I just want to, before I end the stream, just want to say, really do appreciate if you do scroll down and smash the like button. It really does help us with the algorithms, and it helps us improve the stream, and it helps us get recommended and all that kind of stuff. So if you do just scroll down and smash the like button before we end, I'd really appreciate that. And also, if you're enjoying the content, if you're enjoying our daily streams, also give us a subscribe. That really does help us. But that's it for me today. Hopefully Ben is going to be back with us tomorrow, and we're going to be streaming the watch along for the Chelsea game in the Mind series. I'll be later on tomorrow night, and we're going to have a morning show as well to keep you up to date with everything that's going on. Thank you everyone for joining me today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, come on you Spurs.